In the world of Resident Evil, evil isn't just a virus. It's the spark behind every betrayal and body horror nightmare. Every Resident Evil Villain Explained isn't just a tour through monster mayhem. It's a journey into the minds of masterminds like Oswell E. Spencer, whose 1968 progenitor experiments tried to manufacture a new breed of humanity, and Albert Wesker, who turned on his own team in 1998 with catastrophic results. These aren't just names, they're the reason entire cities fell, families mutated, and the world's definition of villainy kept evolving. But what connects a corporate eugenicist, an immortal matriarch, and a hulking nemesis? The answers are wilder and darker than you think. Umbrella's story begins with a trio of visionaries who saw the future not in medicine, but in mutation. Oswell E. Spencer, a man who read Darwin and thought, "I can do better," founded the company in 1968 after unlocking the progenitor virus in West Africa. His diaries, stuffed with eugenics manifestos and not-so-humble predictions, reveal a cold obsession: remake humanity from the ground up, with himself at the top. Spencer's ambitions needed talented hands, and he found them in William Birkin, a prodigy whose surveillance logs chart a rise from lab rat to G-virus architect. Birkin's genius was matched only by his paranoia. When Umbrella sent a cleanup crew to silence him in 1998, he injected himself with his own creation. The result? A walking science experiment gone rogue, mutating endlessly, unable to recognize friend from foe. Meanwhile, in the frozen corridors of the Antarctic base, Alexia Ashford was perfecting her own legacy. Raised in isolation, Alexia believed she could surpass even Spencer's dreams. She developed the T. Veronica virus and, convinced that true evolution takes patience, put herself into cryosleep for 15 years, waiting to emerge as something more than human. Each of these founders, Spencer, Birkin, Alexia, pushed science past its breaking point, leaving behind monsters and a corporate bloodline built on betrayal. In the world of Resident Evil, ambition isn't just dangerous, it's contagious. Buried deep in Umbrella's archives, the Wesker project reads less like a science fair and more like a Bond villain's casting call. The company handpicked a generation of children, gifted, adaptable, and, as it turns out, not especially sentimental. Most didn't last, but two stood out: Albert Wesker, the man who never met a pair of sunglasses he didn't like, and his elusive counterpart, Alex Wesker. Both were raised as living experiments, but their paths split almost immediately. Albert, ever the overachiever, climbed Umbrella's ranks before pulling the rug out from under STARS in 1998. That betrayal in the Arklay mansion wasn't just personal, it was the moment Umbrella's dirty laundry went public. Albert's next act? Inject himself with a prototype virus, survive, and start plotting global extinction events from the shadows. By 2009, he was unleashing Ouroboros, convinced the world needed a hard reset. Chris Redfield and a conveniently placed volcano had other ideas. Meanwhile, Alex Wesker took a more cerebral route. She set up shop on a remote island, swapping out viral muscle for mind games. Her obsession? Digital immortality. Instead of brute strength, Alex experimented with consciousness transfer, hoping to live on in someone else's body. Her final gambit played out in the files of Resident Evil Revelations 2, where she tried to overwrite a young girl's mind with her own. The transfer backfired, leaving Alex mutated and ultimately defeated, but her consciousness lingered, hinting that the Wesker legacy might not be finished. Together, the Wesker siblings turned Umbrella's eugenics dream into a worldwide nightmare, trading in betrayal, bioweapons, and a flair for the dramatic that keeps the series spinning. September 28, 1998. Umbrella's Europe branch authorizes the release of its most infamous experiment, the Nemesis T-Type. Designed for one job: hunt down and erase the last STARS members, Nemesis is less a monster than a guided missile in a trench coat. Its mission order, stamped with the highest priority, reads like a hit list: eliminate all surviving STARS, collect combat data, and leave no witnesses. The company even equipped Nemesis with a rocket launcher, just in case subtlety failed. A day later, the T-103 Tyrant, better known by fans as Mr. X, drops into Raccoon City. Unlike Nemesis, who bellows STARS every appearance, Mr. X is silent, methodical, and impossible to shake. His field orders: recover the G-Virus from William Birkin, suppress RPD survivors, and gather performance data for Umbrella's next generation of BOOWs. Camouflaged as a hulking man in a raincoat, Mr. X stalks the police station with an AI that never tires and never loses track. Both Nemesis and Mr. X are products of the T-Virus, but their upgrades reveal Umbrella's evolving approach to bioweapon design. Nemesis is aggressive, adaptable, even capable of mutating to overcome obstacles. Mr. X, by contrast, is brute force on autopilot. No personality, just relentless pursuit. For the survivors, every footstep overhead is a warning. These monsters aren't just experiments, they're the future of war. The terror isn't just in their strength, but in the knowledge that someone built them to be perfect hunters and set them loose with a single directive: no one escapes. A rusted tanker runs aground in the Louisiana bayou, and inside its ruined hull, something unnatural escapes. Registered as E001, Evelyn isn't a child in any ordinary sense. She's a living bioweapon, engineered to infiltrate and control. After the wreck, she finds her way to the Baker family's doorstep. What happens next isn't a siege or a citywide outbreak, it's a slow, rotting possession, one house at a time. Evelyn's power isn't brute force or fire. She worms her way in through memories and longing, whispering promises of family to Jack, Marguerite, and Lucas Baker. The result is a nightmare that feels personal, a home video gone wrong. The Bakers, once ordinary and even kind, become her puppets, their wills bent and bodies twisted. Jack Baker, the family's patriarch, is hit the hardest. Files found in the main house and the infamous found footage tapes show his transformation from a protective father to something nearly unkillable. He stalks the halls with a grin, surviving gunshots, fire, and even a chainsaw duel in the basement, all while taunting his victims with a twisted sense of hospitality. But it's not just physical mutation. Evelyn's mold seeps into the walls and minds, blurring the line between reality and hallucination. The Baker house becomes a maze of locked doors, family photos, and grotesque secrets. By the time the truth comes out that the frail old woman in the wheelchair is Evelyn herself, the damage is done. The horror isn't global, it's intimate, a family destroyed from within. Evelyn's legacy is a reminder that the worst monsters don't always come crashing through the front door. Sometimes they're already sitting at the dinner table. In the shadow of science, Resident Evil found new kinds of villains. Men who traded petri dishes for pulpits and secret handshakes. Osmond Sadler, draped in robes and flanked by chanting villagers, didn't need a virus. He had Las Plagas, a parasite that made mind control look like a Sunday picnic. In rural Spain, Sadler's sermons weren't just for show. Villagers lined up for injections, then marched in lockstep, ready to die for their leader. By 2004, even US agents were dodging axe-wielding zealots in the name of the cult. In contrast, Derek C. Simmons preferred boardrooms to bonfires. As National Security Advisor and head of the family, he used coded threats and C-virus outbreaks to keep world order, his order, intact. While Sadler's followers shouted in the village square, Simmons' conspirators whispered in the halls of power. Both wanted control, but only one held weekly mind control ceremonies under a crumbling castle. In a remote European village, grief became the seed of something monstrous. Miranda, once a scientist and mother, lost her only daughter Eva to the Spanish flu in 1919. The pain never faded. Instead, it twisted into obsession. Miranda scoured ancient texts and rare medical journals, convinced she could conquer death itself. Her answer came in the form of the megamycete, a living fungus buried beneath the village capable of storing memories, even personalities. Miranda's experiments blurred the line between science and folklore. She recruited 4 followers, promising them power in exchange for loyalty, and began reshaping the village into her own laboratory. Every ritual, every transformation was another attempt to bring Eva back. Over decades, Miranda's reach grew, and so did the mold's influence. Her legacy isn't just in the monsters she created, but in the ways she turned sorrow into a force that would haunt generations. Across 4 decades of Resident Evil history, Umbrella's first viral breakthrough in 1968 led to a cascade of villains, each documented in lab logs, diaries, and official reports. From Spencer's eugenics programs to the S-Tears ambush in 1998 and Mother Miranda's mold experiments after 1919, the franchise's antagonists show a clear pattern. Unchecked obsession and science without restraint create new threats. Yet, not all records are public. Many Umbrella files, Wesker Project archives, and mold research documents remain classified or incomplete, leaving gaps about the full extent of these experiments. Today, the consequences persist as bioweapon outbreaks and ideological conspiracies continue in-universe, according to Capcom's official timelines and game materials. The evidence shows that every villain, from corporate masterminds to cult leaders, shaped a world where science and ambition are rarely separate. That's the legacy documented in every Resident Evil file, where fact leaves just enough room for new horrors to emerge.